Welcome to Straight Talk for Entrepreneurs, where we reveal what it really takes to build a successful business. Whether you are starting with an idea or growing your business, this is the show for you. My guests and I will show you how to build a strong mindset, a powerful body, a profitable business. Hi, I'm Brandon C. White, and this is Build a Business Success Secrets. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Build a Business. I am Brandon, and I have a friend who I met in Las Vegas, of all people, Karla Singson, who is coming to us today from Thailand, if you can believe it. And we are on a 14-hour difference. Quick story, Karla and I met at a event with a mutual friend, Perry Belcher, who is, I don't know, Karla, probably like a really well-known copywriter, right? Direct marketer.
Right.
And I believe everything happens for a reason. Somehow, Karla and I managed to get seated next to each other at this event. I think it was 2 or 3 days. Got to know each other, and I was really impressed because Karla has bootstrapped a business and then used that revenue to build other ones. And I think you're gonna love Karla. She's funny, fun. Thank you so much. I know it's early in the morning there, and grateful. We've been missing each other here and there, but we made it happen.
Yeah.
So
sounds good.
Just a quick story for our listeners. You were in the Philippines. You're originally from the Philippines. This is where you started your flower store, but they basically gave you like 72-hour window with this Corona crisis thing going on, and you and your longtime boyfriend took off to Thailand to a place you have, right?
Yes. So, well, he was already here in Phuket, and then I went back to the Philippines because I'm building a business there in Manila. And then when the president announced that there might be some lockdowns, and I have some friends in the palace, the Malacanang Palace, which is like our White House, and they hush told me that, we're going to be in lockdown in 48 hours. You got to get out if you want. And so I just flew out, and we've always kept a house here in Phuket because we really like it here. Knowing 3 years ago when we learned that a lot of people, especially Caucasians, come here to retire, we were like, why wait? If it's so nice that people come here to retire, then we shouldn't have to wait for retirement. Let's just keep a house here.
So our listeners know, Karla gets to say Caucasians because her boyfriend's a Caucasian, right?
Yeah, put the cock in Caucasian.
That's why I tell people, they're like, I say things about Spanish people, and they're like, you can't say that. You're a gringo. I said, my wife's from South America. I can say anything I want. I've got family. So all kidding aside, just so you know, if you're out there listening to this and you're listening to Karla, she gets to say that that the Caucasians go there. And that's good to know because I'm Caucasian. I'm going to check it out myself.
I didn't even know. Is that offensive to like?
Well, Karla, you and I are friends on Facebook, and I follow all your fun posts. God knows what people get offended by, right?
Yeah, I know.
So, by the way, if you don't follow Karla, you should. She's very good at copywriting herself and has some really, really fun posts. But I'm going to leave that to you as the listener to check out and look her up and find that. And you'll possibly see how people get offended at even a really obvious joke. But Karla, can you take us back to how you got started as an entrepreneur really young? You're a woman in the Philippines. You were born there, grew up there, and somehow you decide that you're going to do a flower shop. Can you walk us through that story? Because I remember you telling me, and it was really fun.
Yeah, so I was in college when I started my flower business, and the real story behind that was I was part of the debate club, like a debate varsity, and I was the president of the debate club, but we were technically not a varsity yet. So what that means is every time we would go out to compete, the school will not give us money because we're not a varsity. They didn't have any budget for us, but we were winning. We were winning a lot of championships at that time. And the ironic thing is, after I graduated, they actually became a varsity because of everything we won for the team. Yay. So So at that time, I needed money. I needed money to go to my tournaments and to be able to compete because it was my life. I was that nerd. Um, and the other funnier story with before that was before I entered debate, I was also a cheerleader. So can you just imagine the pivot that that happened? Um, and I just had this brainstorming session with myself, and I just thought, what is something that people know is cheap, but people will still willingly buy for 4 times the price? And I just really thought long and hard, like what is this thing that I don't have to oversell, but people will just agree to pay a high price for? And I thought flowers, because in the market, or even if you go to Walmart, you go to Smith's, right? You know how much a dozen of flowers are. They're $12, $12 to $20. But if you order it from a flower shop, it will be $48, and you just pay it. You're okay with it, right? I mean, you know this because you're a guy. And I realized, oh, let me make money off of guys, and and let me just choose that market to take money from. And then I I did everything myself. I did social media. At that time, the big thing was Friendster and forums. And I went on forums. I went on local, like Craigslist. I went on local forums, and then I started basically a shop there. And then I sold it online. I bought the flowers from the market. I arranged them myself. I taught myself how to arrange them, and I would actually deliver them myself. So I did everything. And I made some money. I sent myself to those tournaments, and I realized maybe I can just keep doing this on the side. And so when I graduated, I just kept doing it, and then I started to build a real business around it, because I realized it's a great business. It's a very high margin business.
So let me get this straight, because a lot of entrepreneurs that come to me and ask for advice, and I know you talk to a lot, will come to me and say, well, Brandon, I can't do that. I can't, I don't have a supply. I don't have this. And they've got all these like reasons why they can't. But in your case, just to make sure I get this right, you basically have no supplier. You
No.
do the marketing on your own on a forum or a message board. And
I was 17.
And you're 17. You're 17 in the debate club and a cheerleader. And you get an order, and you don't even have the supplies per se. You walk across the street or wherever you are, and you buy them, you arrange them, you mark them up, and you just made 4 times your cost.
Yes. And I even took public transportation to deliver it myself.
I didn't even think of that one. Good Lord.
Yeah, I did everything.
Wow. So that's incredible. And you made good money, I imagine.
Oh, I did. Yeah. I made 300% at least for every piece. And then the more I sold, the more I realized that guys don't really buy just bouquets. So I started upselling chocolates, teddy bears, and everything. Yeah, lots of things.
So tell us how you take this idea, and now you graduate college. I imagine your debate team wins. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you decide that you're going to get a store. Like, how did that, what type of plan, what happened?
Yeah, there's another part of the story to that. So I graduated college at 19. And I had this, debate championship, and I was also a table tennis champion. So I was really a nerd. I was a nerd. I was a geek in school, and that's why no guy like me. And and after I graduated, I was very intellectually arrogant, and I thought, you know what, all these big corporations will be fighting to hire me. I bet you they're gonna just like fawn all over me. And I applied to big corporations, P&G, Unilever. I applied to Coca-Cola, big places, because I had this dream that I'm going to be this executive. But unfortunately, I didn't do well very much. I couldn't even get an interview sometimes. And I thought, why? I had really good track record in college, and these people must be hiring fresh graduates all the time. Nobody would even give me like an executive assistant job.
Come on. Is
And
this in the Philippines or is this in the United States? Like, or did you care?
in the Philippines. Yeah, it was in the Philippines. And then I realized, and someone told me, someone who worked in HR told me, I think no one wants to hire you because you're a teenager. And that's just it. And they were scared to hire a teenager. They thought I was flippant, and they thought that I couldn't commit, and stuff like that. But I'm like, I'm an athlete. If that tells you something about my commitment, like I'm really disciplined and I'm committed. But then again, you're 19. I just kept getting that conversation, and I got sick of it. And then the only place that would hire me was an ad agency where I became a writer. And I really owe that company a lot because they were the only company that gave me a chance. 8 months into this job, I realized I'm not made for the office. I didn't like the dress code. I would talk back at my boss. It was just this girl who like broke all the rules, and I realized I think employment is not for me. So let me just focus on my flower shop and build that business. So
did you just, I mean, you were writing, I imagine it sounds like you were a copywriter.
Yeah.
Like, did you just teach yourself and figure this out, or how did that work? Because copywriting, I mean, people don't understand that copywriting at the end of the day is how you're going to get your hook and market your materials and drive sales. So this in many ways was, I mean, everything happens for a reason. You're really lucky here for this in some ways.
Yeah, I really was lucky because I'm a pretty decent writer. When I was in college, I was in I was the editor-in-chief of our something, and I was a journalist on the side too. I actually had a newspaper column for 5 years. So I'm a pretty decent writer. And then that ad agency was just like, you know what? Let's give her a chance. Maybe she can write radio ads and TV ads. And she's cheap because I would just take anything, right? So I actually took minimum wage salary to copyright for an ad agency, and I think they just took advantage of me. But I mean, not in a bad way. I think they were being business people, and they were like, oh, there's this girl who's pretty talented, and she will take any salary, so let's just hire her. Yeah.
So you take the job, you realize that there's no way that you're going to work in a corporate environment, and you decide that you're going to go into the flower business or flower shop. I don't know what what was that plan?
Yeah. So even when I was working in the ad agency, I would actually use my lunchtime to deliver flowers. So on the side, I was still doing that business. It's funny because it feels like cheating. And and then I would tell my client, can I deliver it at lunch? This is my only free time. And they would say, yeah, sure. And then I only had an hour break. Oh my God. I literally sometimes would run to just make it happen, and then go back to my office like nothing happened. So I've always kept it because it was a great, it was a great side hustle. And then because I also had no shame, I also started to host at night, like MC at events. And that's how I started the other business, which was the events company, which is a bigger business, which actually eventually became a bigger business than the flower shop.
Wow. So how did you quit this marketing job? I guess what happened one day? Did you just walk out, or like how did you make that? Because a lot of people, Karla, they that I speak to, that's a big leap. Like, did you save a bunch of money? Did you have a safety net? How did that happen? And what was going through your mind?
No, this is the truth. And sometimes I don't even want to admit it in public, but I gambled. At night, I would go to these house games, poker. I played poker to make extra money. I was the opposite of maid. I was supporting a boyfriend who didn't have a job. So, by the way, not good. Don't do that. If he's a skater and has a mattress on the floor in the kitchen, he's bad news.
Good
So
advice for all women listening out there, right?
Yes, definitely. I guess I was just really fearless, and I guess I always just trusted myself. that I would not be broke today. I didn't even keep a bank account because I didn't have money to put in there. All the cash I have, I held it. I always just believed in myself that I would never go broke, that there's always a way. I was really disciplined. So even when I gambled, every time I win, I would stand up. Like I would leave. So I knew that, and I knew what my discipline was, and I knew numbers, and so I studied the statistics. I studied poker for a while, and it was always just there every time I would need extra cash. It's not ideal. I'm not giving this as an advice.
Yeah,
um,
yeah. So just like you, I actually, and I talk about this occasionally when it comes up like this, but I funded my first business investing in the stock market, and we actually used the revenue to do that. I, like you, am not recommending that anyone do that. I think it's usually risky. But Karla, don't you? So it sounds like, can you just walk me through that day? Did you one night or that morning wake up and say, this is my last day at the advertising? Did you walk out at lunch? Literally, how did that happen?
Well, I was lucky because there was a ruckus in the office at that time too. So other people were resigning for some other reason, and these people were my friends, and they were just like, "So Karla, we're leaving. You're coming with us?" And yeah, well, the issue was, I think the finance girl was sleeping with our boss, and our boss is married, and then there was just some issue in the office, and a lot of people resigned at the same time because they didn't like it. And so I just went with them, and we all filed a resignation. I think within a month there was 5 of us who resigned, but I had my personal reasons. My personal reasons was, this is my chance to focus on my business, and maybe this is my chance to actually be a business person. And they also had their personal reasons.
I see. So what happens? You quit, you walk out. I sort of feel like it's a Jerry Maguire moment in many ways, right?
Yeah,
Right?
I
Like,
know.
who's coming with me? Carla's like, I'm coming. Okay. Uh, uh,
Yeah.
um, and then what did you go right? Did you ramp up the flower delivery? What I'm interested in understanding is how you got from, and I know you have two businesses here, so I want to talk about those, but we'll isolate them a little bit if we can,
Yeah.
is how do you get from delivering the flowers and doing it to actually getting a shop and then hiring your first employee? Because that's a really big step for, when you start to just come up with an idea, you get a few sales, you have some
Right.
success, and then you make this an actual process.
Right. So I was living downtown already. So I'm pretty lucky that for a while I really didn't need a physical shop because my house was in downtown and people can easily come to go to my house. But I didn't have a display there, but I had all my things there and had all my materials. So for me, a basic thing to remember whenever you hire a new person is always, what is your overflow? That's always a basic thing that I ask myself every time I hire a new person. And so the very first person that I hired is an assistant, obviously, for the flower shop. So this guy would do some bank errands for me, or he would get the flowers, or I would make the flowers and he would deliver. So this was the first time that I was like, and I didn't have a car. So the first time that I was like, you know what, I can't do this by myself. I'm getting a lot more orders and I want to focus on closing the clients, and someone else should do this. So that's an overflow, right? So that was my first moment when I was like, oh, there's so much overflow of work. I got to send this overflow to someone and I got to assign this to someone. And then I hired a guy who also needed a job, who was a friend of a friend, and he was great. He was a great assistant, and he was also very easy to teach. So I taught him how to arrange flowers fast, and I improved. I just kept selling more and more. And then I think after 3 years, I was also pretty lucky. My boyfriend acquired a building downtown, and he was like, do you want to rent one of the spaces? I'll give it to you at a good price. And this was a downtown space with a window display. And I was like, yeah, sure. And it was my first office, but he didn't give me a break. He did, I paid him fairly. But also, I think that was also partially luck. So if I am to do it over again, and if I didn't have that opportunity with my boyfriend, I would say that I would save up to 6 months worth of rent and salaries before I decide to get a shop.
I think that's good advice because nothing ever goes as you think it's going to go, right? I mean,
Hmm.
I can't imagine. I mean, you probably had a few hiccups yourself at some point
Oh
along the,
gosh, so many. Yeah.
like what were your top two that you remember that happened?
Um, that office, I hired when I opened that shop. I hired two people, and I brought them on full time. And I remember this. There was 3 months where I would every time it's like just before payday, I would go to a pawn shop and pawn my things to make payroll. I pawned a DSLR camera. I pawned some jewelry that my mom gave me. I pawned
Oh,
an
oh
extra
my,
laptop.
this is crazy. So what happened, Carla? What did the sales just not come in as fast as you had anticipated?
Yes, yes, and I didn't have any cash. I didn't have savings. So like what I said, I jumped on the opportunity to get a shop just because my boyfriend offered it to me and it was there, and I just knew that someone else would take it if I didn't get it. And it was a great space, great office, window display, floor to ceiling window display. It was perfect for my shop. So for 3 months I did that. I would like play poker, and then if my money's not enough, I would pawn something, or I would like make deals here and there. I made a lot of deals. I like sold secondhand cars, I connected people, I sold memorial lots, I just whatever. I was a hustler. i
So
just
you,
I
so
just
you
really
truly,
wanted it to
you
work.
truly hustled to get this flower shop up on its feet. And how long did it take from this crazy move, which I think is good advice not to necessarily do? One of the things, Carla, so you know, is I tell entrepreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurs, as you could appreciate, they always want to get an office. They're always telling me that they're getting an office.
Right,
Like what?
right,
And I'm asking, what the heck do you want? Why what do you need an office for? Well, that's we have a business, Brandon. We need an office. I said,
right.
well, run your business out of your home until you have enough cash, and then figure it out. And I told some people today, people will tell me that I'm a tech geek, and here
Mm,
in Silicon Valley, I'm like, yeah, you bunch of geeks, you bunch of engineers, you all work remote, you don't like people anyway, which may or may not be true. I like people, but I'm maybe a hybrid. But the bottom line is there's a company called Halo here in the United States, based out of LA, that makes low calorie ice cream, 350 plus employees, and they all work remote.
ooh, interesting.
Yeah, right. So here's a product company, not a tech company, that you can do it. So I always tell people, and people, it's a really sore spot for me. I don't want to go on about why, but I've got some scars on my back from bad experiences of paying high rent when you could have been
Yes.
dumping it in the business. So for you, it sounds like you took that leap. It was a good location, great opportunity. How long did it take until you got that business to where the cash flow could pay for itself?
3 months. It was only 3 months, thankfully, thank God. It was only 3 months of going to the pawn shop and hustling, and then I was able to really be smart about money. But I also sacrificed. There's also sacrifices. Like I always ate at home, and I never watched a movie for that 3 months. I never bought a new piece of clothing. I did my own nails. So it was that's a big sacrifice for girls. And
I've seen your nails and they're impressive.
yeah, that's because well, in Vegas, we have a lot of really good nail people, but yeah, so it really comes to sacrifices too. You have to be really, cash is everything when you're starting out, and you have to be really strict. You have to be really tight in terms of handling your cash. Another thing that I also learned with that journey is you're definitely right that not everyone needs a physical location. So the only reason that for you to get a physical location is if the foot traffic contributes to your bottom line, and that's it.
Thank you
And
for
that's
that. I
really
didn't
it.
even I didn't even pay you for that.
If the foot traffic doesn't contribute to your bottom line, like get out. You don't need an office. Or if you need storage, buy storage. Storage is cheaper. It's industrial real estate. It's not it's you don't have to be downtown, where rent is very high. So yeah.
So you let's just recap for somebody who might be tuning in. You are super smart, obviously. You are in high school. You are doing debate. You're not even a varsity. It's not even really official, right? It's more like a club, so to speak.
Yes, it was a
Not
club.
club. You need money. You sell flowers. You're also a cheerleader. You graduate at 19. You take a job. Well, no one will hire you because they think you're a teenager because I guess.
Graduated college at 19.
Yeah, graduated college. What did I say? I
Yeah.
don't. Yeah, sorry. It's like almost past my bedtime here on the
Sorry.
on the Pacific Coast. So you graduate college at 19. You barely can get a job, even though you're super smart, top of your class, do this debate team, you're selling flowers. You get a job working for basically nothing, minimum wage in the Philippines, and you're delivering flowers at lunch, and then walk out in what I'm going to call a Jerry Maguire moment because there's some riff going on and all your friends walk out, and then you start a flower business, you sell all your stuff, you basically sacrifice that. And I think that's an important point I want to touch on because everybody who sets out to be, there's like this whole entrepreneur, I feel like there's an entrepreneurial revival that's going on a little while. Here in Silicon Valley, where I live, it's sort of normal because everybody it's like Vegas. If they come there, they're probably a gambler or something. They come here and you want to be an entrepreneur, but this is entrepreneur movement, let's say, where, everybody wants to be on front of the magazine and the glitz and the glory, and it's really sexy. But the truth is, Karla, right? Like, it takes a while to get there, and it's not as pretty as it may look.
Oh God, no, absolutely not. Yeah. You can think about it. There's a reason why most people are not entrepreneurs. It's because it's hard. Partially, I think it's because it's difficult. You have to make a lot of sacrifices, time, relationships. There's a lot of learning that goes into it. You can't just wing it. Some people are very risk averse. So most people are very risk averse, and it's because they've been taught that way, and that's fine. It's for survival. And aside from that, partially it's also a personality type. I see a lot of people who really hustle, they work hard, and they're good people, and they're pretty reasonable. They're not stupid, but I just know, my intuition just tells me, I just meet some people where they're like that, and my intuition just tells me this guy's not going to make it. Something just tells me, and I think it's personality type too.
What type of personality do you think an entrepreneur needs to have to really make it and get over the tipping point, so to speak, to make that leap?
Right. So Jordan Peterson has this great test called Understand Myself. And there's an item there, which is conscientiousness. And he says that largely successful entrepreneurs are still, success in entrepreneurs is still largely dependent on IQ and conscientiousness. So I really absolutely believe that you have to be a certain type of smart to not just smart as in like read the books and whatever, but like people smart. You kind of have to be really above most people in terms of having elevated opinions, your passion for learning. Like you kind of have to be mentally above people. And I don't know if that's genetic or if I believe that you can work towards that too. And then there's other things, like for example, I believe that depression is and the the capacity, not capacity, but the the propensity to be depressed is tied to our DNA. And some people just don't get depressed or very hard to get depressed. And then some people are very prone to depression and are always depressed and have been born depressed actually. And so if you're like that, and if you're one of those people genetically, unfortunately, it's going to be very hard to do business, right? If you're always depressed or something. So there's
I would,
a lot of factors.
I can see that. What do you think about this whole thing, Karla, about teaching entrepreneurship? Like, can you're talking about this genetic and there's always this debate in the entrepreneur whatever realm. I mean, I have an MBA and there's this, well, we can teach entrepreneurs, and it feels like in my experience that there's this intangible thing that I believe that anybody can do anything they set their mind to.
Right.
But you've got to believe you can do what you're not sure you believe you can do. And only entrepreneurs believe what I just said, which makes no sense. Right? So can you teach that? It's hard to really know, right?
Yeah. Like you're right. It's hard to know. Like I can't even, I can give you my opinion, but I can't say that it's rule. And I can't even, and I'm pretty young, I have a lot of things to learn, whatever experience in business I have. There's so many people who are in their 50s who can debunk me basically through experience and through everyone that they have met in their lives. But I think that when schools teach entrepreneurship, what they're really teaching is mostly systems, because I graduated business administration. I majored in marketing, and it was great. I really had fun in university. But even my classmates, I remember them. Majority of them are not entrepreneurs. They have jobs. They work in banks, like all the jobs that I would rather kill myself than do. Like,
yeah, but
that's me. That's my personality type.
So that's fair. Sometimes I look at those people, I actually am interested. I'm like, God, I wish I could do that, because it'd just be so much easier. Then I would always know where my paycheck was coming from. I mean, there's risk everywhere, right? But
right.
And everybody, the grass is always greener, but the water bill's always higher. So
that's funny.
on both sides, everybody's thinking that at some level. So I think at some level you got to sort of accept who you are and do that. But let's get back to your story. I got a little bit off track. I have a sometimes sense of doing that, but I appreciate you sharing your thoughts, and I really value your experience in that. So we're back at the flower shop, 3 months, you're cash flow positive. What happens?
Yeah, I started going hard on ads. So that was a time when Facebook was really popping in the Philippines, and I built a Facebook page and I experimented with ads and stuff like that. And then the magic with a flower shop business, or a gift shop business, which we're now calling ourselves a gift shop. The magic with it is the upsells are so great. So like what I said, we realized that nobody really just buys flowers. And we even, oh my God, I'm so sorry to all the guys watching this. We even have a script that will make a guy feel bad if they just bought flowers.
So give me that script, because I know you know it.
Yeah, well, we're all girls. We're all girls in customer support. So we just tell the guy like, oh, what? Are you sure you're just going to buy flowers? Isn't that a little inadequate? And then the guy would.
That's a very interesting word, Karla, to be using.
Sorry. Sorry. I can just, I can feel all the cops twitching right now. Like they're just a little scared of me now. It's not we don't use the word inadequate. We just say like, are you sure? Like, is that all?
No,
Like,
Karla, I actually know you. I think you use inadequate. I actually think you use that.
Well, we speak in our local language, and the word is softer, and the word is more acceptable. It's less offensive. And then the guy would usually be like, oh, you know what? I just want this done. So what do you think is good? So the conversation's always like that. Or we would say, oh, I think it would be nice if you can add a teddy bear so that the girl can keep something because the flowers will die. Or you can also add some chocolates because, it's something that she can enjoy. And you can also enjoy it if you want. And then usually the guys just reply, yeah, just make it happen. I just want this done. Just deliver it at this time. They're not really fussy, obviously, because,
So one thing that if I can translate this into listeners who are out there trying to figure out, really, Karla, what you've just described is you intimately understand your customer avatar from I would bet that you know 3 types of guys that call you and you understand what they think, how they think, and what they're really looking for.
Right. That's absolutely right. And you also gotta be strategic about your conversations, so your sales conversations. So before there was a lot of back and forth, and I told my team, how many back and forths do you do with a client before they pay? And some of them had 16 back and forths. I wasn't happy about that, but they closed a client, so that's fine, I guess. Some of them had this is chat. This is chat. Some of them had 10, 12, and I'm like, this is a challenge. Keep it to 8 back and forth. So you send 4 messages. The guy sends 4 messages. You should be able to close or get the credit card information or close the sale. So we started adjusting. We started adjusting the script, and then until we got to 8, and then eventually, with the bots right now, it also made our job easier. So that would also be another thing that I would encourage small businesses. Marketing technology is very cheap now. A lot of them come for free. And so don't be intimidated by them. You don't have to be a Brandon White to master tech. You don't have to call up this ex-boyfriend of yours who studied IT just to get advice. You can take advantage of so many easy marketing technology, even funnels, chatbots. There's automated replies on Facebook. So take advantage and try to learn these things. They're very easy to learn. So, don't be intimidated by tech.
Well, I think there's a lot of important lessons there. Know your avatar, build scripts, understand how long it takes to close a customer and the key points. And ultimately, the other lesson that I'm hearing from you is you figured out how to scale your business beyond you. So you basically cloned, if that's even possible, several Karlas in this experience.
Yeah, that's really important because you can't do everything, obviously, and you gotta always do the thing that you like doing the most, because you know why? That's where you're best at. And I'm not very good with financials. I'm actually not very organized, and so I hired people who are smarter than me in those things, who are more organized, um, more systematic than me. And 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 another thing, if I can add to the sales conversation part, is always know the emotional motivation of your client. So like what Brandon shared earlier, there's probably 3 basic profiles of guys who buy from our flower shop. And the basic, I'll make this quick, and the basic is usually there's a guy who wants it fast. There's a guy who is not, so that guy who wants it fast, he's not price sensitive. So he's willing to pay a higher amount of money if it's a rush delivery because he's rushing. There's a guy who really is super kind of mushy, and he loves to just get the best gift for his wife. And this is usually the guy who buys everything. He would buy the flowers, the bear, the chocolate. Sometimes he would even buy a serenade, which is our most expensive service. To serenade, we'll send a guitarist and a singer and sing a love song to your girl. And then there's also another guy who is very basic. He would pick something from the photo album from the gallery, and he would pay, and that's it. And he wants the least amount of conversation and the least amount of back and forth. He just wants to know that it will be there at a certain time, and that's it. So yeah, so learn to profile your clients and find out what their emotional motivations are. And that is why the conversation, you really need to pay attention. You really need to listen to your client, to what they're saying, instead of just keeping a script because you have a script. So I think that is one thing that really helped us make a lot of sales.
I think that's a really good advice for everybody out there. And it really is something that people don't realize how important it is, that once you understand that customer avatar, you can actually write a script that talks to exactly what they're doing. And it's amazing how much easier the sale could be.
Oh, absolutely. That's right.
Every time. So with that in mind, how long do you have another business now? Can you event planning? Is this going on at the same time? Does it seems like it might complement your flower business. How did that happen? And is that something you use the flower shop to fund? And how did that all come about?
Yeah. So one thing that one of the big reasons why I'm able to bootstrap my companies is I always chose zero capital and profit first businesses. So these are businesses that don't need a lot of capital, but only relies on sales. So if you think about it, the flower shop, I'm taking their payment before I buy the flowers and arrange and deliver it. So I can actually take my profit before so if it's $12 and I price it at 48, I can take the 36 as profit. Let's say it's 30 after all of the other costs, and I can just pocket that, right? And I just did that thing again and again and again, and that's why I was able to build a business. So on this other business, events planning, since I was hosting and I was an MC, I realized that if I keep on MCing, there is an X amount of, I'll hit a ceiling so fast. So I had a gig where I MC'd with a really big celebrity. She's probably the biggest celebrity at that time. We did a mall show together, and I got paid $500 for an hour of work. So it's not bad, right? I had my makeup done. I had to buy so after my makeup and my dress, I pocketed probably 450. So, which is still not bad.
It's really good.
But yeah, it's really good. 500 for an hour, which is not just an hour. It's like 4 hours because if you put makeup and traveling there and stuff, and backstage time. But I thought this is the biggest celebrity in the Philippines. This is probably my ceiling. If I'm gonna continue working, I'm gonna make $500 an hour. Not even every day. It's just my ceiling. So I don't want to keep hitting my head on that ceiling. And I realized the way I can make more money in events is to do the event. And I begged one girl in my city to take me on as an assistant. And I was an assistant. I was her assistant. I wiped floors. I arranged chairs for an event. I really wanted to learn the business. And
so
then,
but you're an assistant while you have your flower business going.
yeah, on the side. Yeah.
And you had the systems in place that you could do that and collect the cash, which afforded you the opportunity to take a less paying job to actually learn it.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. That's what I did. And it's better, it's better than taking a course because I'm still getting paid, although it's minimum to learn. But that isn't that like apprenticeship. It's the best deal ever, right? You're getting paid to learn instead of you paying to learn, So.
Yeah, I think apprenticeships are, if you are interested in something, you have the opportunity to go with someone who's successful. You almost would pay them, truthfully, right? Because
Absolutely.
there's so many things that you see. And when you get access to behind the curtain and you can actually see what someone is doing and just ride alongside.
Right.
There's no replacement for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I had that opportunity because I had time to make mistakes. I was young, and I always thought that way. Even right now, the people that I'm meeting are way older than me. I always feel grateful because I look around the room, and most of the time I'm one of the youngest people, and I'm like, you know what I have, uh, against these people. They might have money and experience, but I have allowance to make mistakes, and I can take more risks because I'm younger, and that's how I look at going to like high level masterminds. I'm really super grateful to just be in that room.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I was lucky, much like you, is to have a bunch of older people who, for whatever reason, I always say this is why I'll help pretty much anyone who will actually put forth effort, is
Right.
uh, it appears to the outside that people make it there alone and did all this. But the truth of the matter is, at least in my case, I can say there's a lot of people who helped me who didn't need to help me, who didn't
Right.
really have anything in it other than the feeling good that they had helped some young kid who hopefully did something with it. And I think those are the opportunities that you're really grateful for, and that you look for. And I also think that people, you can, I don't think in my case or your case, Carl, I think you agree. Yeah, maybe we're driven, maybe we're smart, maybe whatever, but we really just put forth the effort and tried, and certainly weren't giving these things. So regardless, if you're out there listening and say, oh, well, Brandon and Carla had this opportunity and she met her boyfriend gave her this place, but Carla paid fair rent for that place and had these, you can create these opportunities for yourself, right? If you,
Absolutely.
if you decide that, oh, I can't work for that cheap, Brandon, I can't do that. Well, why? Because you can't eat out 5 times, because you're going to have to give up your Mercedes and drive an Accord. That maybe you got to take 2 steps back to get 5 steps forward.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and some of that is just pride, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I have that written down actually
Yeah,
in my 3 HPTs.
there you go. I told Carl he's going to have to give 3 HPTs later at the end.
Yeah.
So that I think you really have to do that. And I'm not saying it's easy, because to be an entrepreneur, you got to have a big ego, simply because you're going to get told no. You're going to be like told no in 10 different ways, 10 times in a day. I mean, there's just so many negative Nancy's out there, right?
Right.
And what I say, Carla, tell me if you, from your experience, I personally think that a lot of these people are just projecting on you,
Right. Absolutely.
because they have their own limitations on themselves. So it doesn't mean they're bad people. Where everybody is struggling with something in their life.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying that they're bad people. What I'm saying is you have to be able to recognize that and separate it, and then somehow turn it off and move on, right?
Right. Yeah.
What are some of the techniques that you use to do that? How do you handle that? Hey, Carla, you're too young. You can't do that. You can't build another business. You can't, like, how do you, what goes through your head? Do you have some techniques that you use, or how do you approach it?
Well, the thing with that too is I was really I was I just kept running. I just never believed anyone who said that it's not possible. When I was a kid, I've watched my parents try to be entrepreneurs. So my dad had a job, but the job kept promoting him, and he couldn't get out because, of course, the benefits and the retirement fund. Yeah, you know how it is. And he never really got out, and then he had an early retirement, and then he passed on. And then my mom was always a great salesperson. She started selling appliances for a commission, and then other stuff for a commission, and then eventually she went to real estate. But my parents always wanted to have a business, like a real business, instead of just hustling there. And so it was also, I grew up to that dream, and I was this eldest child, and I grew up watching my parents strive, and I wouldn't say they were failing. It's just that they never really probably had the same chances that I had. and they did all their best to send me to the best business school, and I just thought I owe it to them. And if I would let something get in my way, it's disrespectful to my parents who work so hard, and I can't bear that burden of disappointing my parents. So I guess that's also one advantage of being Asian, because
Is that
you're
you're driven by that?
absolutely, yeah. So whenever people would say no, I would just in my head, or obviously I got a lot of flack. Like, you're too young, you can't do this, you have no experience, like you're not even a florist. That was not. Nobody taught me to arrange flowers. I just said, well, watch me. I wasn't. My parents didn't spend for business school for nothing. So.
Yeah. So I was talking to a friend the other day. It's funny you said, and I actually get to say this too because my sister-in-law is Asian, South Korean, and I'm talking to my friend the other day, and I said, we were talking about business or something, and I said, you can't go to your friends and family because they're all going to tell you your idea is good and da 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 da. It's not a real test, right? Who knows if you're really solving a real problem? He's like, Brendan, you're white. He's like, I'm Asian. I don't get any of that. Was that what your mom says? I was like, oh, really? Is that how it works? So I think from a cultural standpoint, what you said is important. And at the end of the day, you can take that, and we all have what drives us, right?
Yes.
We all have these things that drive us. And usually it comes somehow from our childhood, right? Somewhere. Yes. And you got to work through, what I tell entrepreneurs is you got to get work through that stuff, because you need to intimately understand yourself. You've said a lot of really important things so far, which is understand yourself. And along comes with that when you were talking about understand your strengths and then fill your weaknesses. I think in America, at least, Karla, I think the American culture has taught people to say, oh, well, Karla, you're really not good at that, so you really should spend your time getting better at that. And I think the right way to approach it is figure out what you're really good at and then fill in your weaknesses like you have with people who can do that. It doesn't mean, and I'm just going to say this to the listeners because I actually tried this at home with my wife, Karla, and we've been together for 22 years. And I basically said, hey, listen, baby, I am not good at washing dishes at night.
It's
and
not on your LinkedIn.
Yeah, and you are way better. And I'm just going to tell everybody out there that doesn't work. Okay, so sometimes in a relationship, you got to get a little bit better. It's not an excuse. It doesn't get you off the hook. I tried the same thing with like clothes at the end of the night, like. You just take them off, put them on the counter, and not put them in. Maybe you and Mitch have that thing. Maybe that's why it's funny. But bottom line is, don't let people off the hook. You got to lean into what you're good at and fill in where those holes are, and understand that is the key, right? Too many people think that they're good at something that they're not. They don't accept it, and that's their downfall.
That's right.
Right. If you kept telling yourself you're really good at finance and you know you're not, but you kept doing it and you kept doing a crappy job, then you probably go out of business.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, understanding yourself and devoting time to just reflecting what your strengths are. Like right now, it's like going to a restaurant. You go to a new restaurant and there's a menu. And there are dishes there that you kind of know, and you order them because you kind of know them, and they'll be good. They'll be good because they sounds like that dish that you know. So, but there are also dishes that you absolutely don't know anything, and they won't be good. So to not order them. And the analogy to that for me is there are things that I just know I'm bad at, so I don't even delve. I don't even try. One example is a few months ago I met this guy at we were doing an event together in Vegas, and we were manning this booth together. We were managing this booth, and we were so bored because there was like very few people. And he was like, hey, do you know how to play chess? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not good. And he was like, oh, you're pretty smart, you're probably good at chess. And I'm like, no, I'm really not good at chess. And he said, you know what, let's play and just do your best. And obviously he I did my best. I really did my best. I was thinking, I was at the best that I can, thinking two moves ahead, all of the things that I could. I really tried my best. I'm just not good at it. This guy was 6 years younger than me. He beat me. I don't know if he plays chess every day, but it was just one of those moments where I realized, like, I felt better because, like, yeah, I know my strengths, and I also know what I'm bad at. So, and that's why I let other people handle my finances in the office, and I hire very amazing project managers.
So that's a good segue because you're there in Thailand. It looks super nice. Clearly Caucasians come there, so they must know something. You're just tuning in. That's a joke. You need to rewind and go to the beginning.
I think the politically correct term is white people.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, here's what I'm wondering. You're in Thailand, living it up. Looks super nice, right? How are you managing, in all seriousness, how are you managing remotely? And how do you know your flower shop back in the Philippines now and your event business? I imagine you can run your event business from anywhere, but and maybe there's not a lot of events right now because of the Corona crisis, but how do you manage remotely and manage to still live the way you do and have that freedom?
Right. So I think that handling a business should be like a pyramid. Obviously, if you're the owner, if you're at the top, you should only talk to like three key people. And these three key people, each of them will talk to three key people, and that's it. And you really only talk to them. So I only talk to my senior management, really. I don't need, there's another business that I'm leading. We have, I don't know, 50 employees, talk to all of them, obviously. I talk to just the division leads, and that's it. And then in my events company, I talk to my VP for operations, and then my marketing supervisor, and that's really it. I talk to them. They're the only two people I talk to. And then in the flower shop, I talk to my general manager, who is my sister. So I just really talk to her. I don't talk to all the delivery boys. I don't talk to the suppliers. You just have to have your standards set with these people, and you have to pay them well, obviously. If you can sweeten the deal with a little bit of profit share, which I'm doing with my key people, so that they will also be interested and motivated to make the bottom line work, and make it better all the time. So I think it's the key really is hiring a few very key people close to you that you communicate your standards to, and you communicate your expectations to, and then that's their goal. Don't micromanage them. So if you can, Sarah Blakely, who's a famous female billionaire, she had this type of hiring, which I'm actually pretty scared to try. But she says that whenever she hires someone, she would give them her goals, and then she would not talk to them for 90 days. And if they hit their goal, and that's their probationary period, if they hit that goal, whatever they did, she doesn't care. If they hit that goal, that's awesome, good, you're in. If they don't, then they're out. So because she would provide you all the resources you need, right, and you have all the support around you and stuff like that. So I think that kind of makes sense, because the least amount of conversations I do with my people, that'll be the best, because that means I have more time to think about the business strategy, the future of the business, and for myself. Maybe and that's how I built a lot of businesses. Because I have time to think, which is very important. I don't know how to expound that, but I think that's it.
But I think that's an important point. So the way that I would characterize what you just said is that you work on your business, not in your business.
Yep.
Would that be
Yeah,
a fair way of putting it? And
absolutely.
now I have a question for you, because I was
Mhm.
listening to you, and I think the way you've built that is really interesting. Do you ever worry? Do you ever worry that you're receiving a filtered message about your business from these senior managers?
Yes. I mean, no, I don't worry, but I sometimes I catch them actually. So another thing that I practice in my offices is an honor system. I don't have CCTV cameras. I just trust that they're working, and it's absolute trust and confidence. And I even include that whenever I talk to them, and whenever I give them a huge task, I would literally in verbatim tell them, "Hey, Brandon, I have trust and confidence that you can achieve this. Anything you need, reach out to me. Any problem you can't solve yourself, let me know. But if you can, just I have trust in you. You're chosen for this position." So I had these pep talks as soon as I hired them for a senior management position. I tell them that every single person is chosen for that position, and they wouldn't be anywhere else. And I really believe that that they're here to because they're the best person to do that job. So there's a lot of that going, and I practice that. And I believe that if you just trust people, I think it will likely work. And also, if you're a good leader, then 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 people will, there's some people who fuck me over. Like I had someone who stole from me, you know yeah, of course. So now we have more systems to avoid that. We got better at that. And uh and in terms of being worried if I'm getting a filtered message, at the end of the day, I think about the results. So what if they give me a filtered message? As long as I guess the profits, the financial statement looks good at the end, and we didn't do anything illegal, dude, I'm all for it. Give me a filtered message every day.
Fair enough. You sound really angry or 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 disappointed when someone really screwed you over.
Yeah, because I know that I treat my people well. I really do. And I pay them higher than industry standards. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I was able to get really good people. I pirated them. They're unhappy executives from bigger companies, and 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 I pay them better, and then I give them more flexibility. They're allowed to telecommute. I give them unlimited leaves in a year, as long as it's pre-scheduled. Every year, I fly everyone out to a vacation from the top to the bottom employee, and that's key. And flying out is psychological for me. It has to be a plane ride. It can't be a road trip. I fly everyone out for a vacation, and we do team building stuff, and we celebrate on my birthday. And so I know that I'm better than most bosses, I would say, especially in the Philippines, where there's a lot of businessmen who just are all money. But I'm a service-based business. All of my businesses are service-based, so people are my assets, and they're everything. And so that's why when that person, I caught him lying to me many times. So I'll give you one example. There's a cafe near our office that has a TV, and I don't go to my office. But that time I drove by and I saw him at like 3 p.m. with his foot up, watching, like eating snacks and watching TV. And I was on a stoplight, so I called him. I was like, "Hey, how's it going? Where are you? What are you doing?" And I kid you not, he told me, "Yeah, I'm at the office and I'm doing this, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Dude, I can see you right now in the cafe watching TV with your foot up, eating a fucking banana." Like, and then we caught him. My other team managers caught him stealing some money from the petty cash. So it wasn't much, but that's obviously a red flag. And then he lied about other things, and then we just like and then I kept him on because I know he was supporting his sister's studies, but I kind of let that get in the way. So after that, my lawyer was like, "Dude, you gotta let this guy go. Like, it's not healthy." And that was another lesson. If you keep one bad person in the office, it will make the good people feel bad because you're tolerating that kind of behavior. And it's also disrespectful for them. So when he left, when I fired him, my teammates told me that the mood in the office got better. They're more productive. And who would have known it was that?
I'm so glad you said that, because I was going to say that. And I think it's a really hard thing to do, right? Because letting anyone go, it's still hard.
Yep.
I mean, people say, oh, it's not personal, it's business. It's personal because it's personal. It's a person. Now, it makes it a little easier when someone lies, steals, and does all that, because it makes it easier. But I think what your message and what you just conveyed is really important takeaway from that, which is, and I'm really grateful for you admitting that you may have let it go longer than you otherwise should, because that's hard to admit. But that's just a lesson that I've learned too. You have got to make it happen. You've got to cut the string fast. It will one, that whole thing, and I guess it's sort of a cliche, one bad apple, but it is true.
Right.
It will it will make an amazing team mediocre, if not awful, really quick.
Right. Yeah. And then there's financial I learned this too, because I have lots of time to think. There's a financial conversation that employees have in their heads, and employees, no matter how much you love them, how good you treat them, they always know that the harder they work and the better they are, you will make money and not them. And that is a conversation and a voice in their heads that you gotta keep silent as much as you can. That's why you gotta be nice to them, treat them well, and all that stuff. And most employees will not have that conversation every day, but sometimes it will arrive to them. And if you keep one bad employee, this conversation will start going and saying the salary of that employee could be more benefits for them. Or they would kind of think, I can do the job of this bad employee. Why don't I just get paid more so I can do it? Or they would think, what, if we let this guy go, the salary that we pay him, we could buy a new microwave in the office for that. Or, so there's that financial conversation that your employees have in their heads. And it's one of the reasons. So even if they don't own the money in the business, they still believe that they're somehow entitled to the decision making on how that money should be spent, because they're contributing to that money. And I think that's a little too deep, but I just feel like that's deep inside one of the reasons why they will always hate that bad employee, because they feel like you're wasting money, the money that they made for you, to this person who's wrong.
Oh, I don't think it's too deep at all. I think that what you just described is really important. And I would bridge it from not just knowing your customer, but knowing the conversations that people who work for you on your team are also having, and intimately understanding that. Because in many ways, Karla, I think you agree, is your teammates, the people that work for you, your employees, are your customer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So you have to understand that conversation. I think that is really unique. A very, very insightful thing that you just came up with around that conversation. I like how you said it. It's that financial conversation. And it's funny, because the truth of the matter is that as you were talking about that, I can remember way back to when I was a cashier at an Exxon, and remembering this conversation, like, at the end of the day, I'm not making this money. They're making 50 cents a gallon off this gas, and I'm in here at 3:00 in the morning eating Caesar's breadsticks and watching Cops. And that really is the financial conversation that's going on in your head, And the funny part is that was a really long time ago for me, and just you talking about that. So I offer that to the listeners to think about for your teammates. And when you hire, a few lessons there is fire fast as soon as there's a problem, and understand the conversations that people are having in your company and how you're going to treat them and take care of them, because ultimately they are making you money.
Yes, absolutely.
And even in profit sharing, which I think is a great tool, or stock options, or whatever that is, at the end of the day, the conversation that people are having really is, well, the people at the top there are the ones getting rich. What am I doing? So you have got to definitely address that. And I believe that people who work really hard for you should just genuinely take care of, um, because everybody has families, everybody has a mortgage, everybody has a story, and
Right.
they're working with that. So Karla, we've been really grateful for this story. Where are you now with your businesses, and where are you going?
So right now we are I'm building a big company with Perry actually, and we have managed outsourcing teams, and we have really great offers for that are very competitive. So we built this one like conglomerate business with managed teams for support, creative, and tech. So the companies are, you know, WP expert, there's tech staff, there's real estate virtual assistants. So there's this different companies that focus on managed outsource teams. So this is great for people, and especially right now in America, you know, a lot of companies had to unfortunately lay off employees. And but it doesn't mean that the services that these employees are providing are non-essential. So us giving them an option to have managed outsourced teams. If they don't want to just jump in the ocean full of sharks and just try to hire a freelancer, and if they don't feel safe doing that, or they don't trust themselves to manage people remotely, we have you know, Perry's team has done that for 13 years, and they have managed call centers in the Philippines. But right now we're building something bigger. We're building it with more divisions, and my focus right now is in helping him build that business, which is great because I worked with him. I actually moved to Vegas for Perry, so to work alongside him. So he's my one of my mentors, and he took me on and to work with him, and I just took the chance, and I actually decided in an afternoon when he gave me the offer, and I'm like, "Are you serious? Because I'll move." And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And then and I just, like what I said, I just keep running and I don't ever look back. And then this opportunity came up. I think this opportunity came up in January when he also there was a top executive in the company who was also let go, and he realized that, you know what, Carla, you're Filipina. Why don't you just lead this thing? Because you know, you this is going to be 90% Filipino staffed. And so yeah, that's what we're building, and basically for
Who would
any,
be your customer? Who would be your what, like? Can you give me a few examples so the listeners might be interested in what your
yeah.
service is?
So yeah, there's for example wpexpert.com. So it's managed WordPress support for as low as 295 a month. So if you have a WordPress site, if your business is dependent on your site, if it's an e-com business, personal brand business, and you don't you always have updates and you just want to make it secure, you can, you know, subscribe to that offer. Our really famous offer is Wow Support, which is $1 an hour customer support. Yes, I'm not kidding. So it's chat, call, and email. But for if you just choose chat, then that's one. If you choose call, that's one. So we charge $1 an hour. So if you pay, that's for the our bestseller offer, which is 24/7 and 365 days a year. So it's only 720 a month, really. That's 24/7 chat support or call support or email support. But if you want all three, then it's like around 2100. But if you have a business dependent on those things, then that is a great thing to
And
have.
that's an incredible price, Karla.
Yeah.
But now, would that support also do sales?
We have another business for sales. It's called Prospectly. It's mostly for appointment setting, prospecting, and sales closing. So that one is priced per minute for calls, and it also has a commission at the end. So there's a commission for a turnover, which is if you want first line of defense for sales, and then you want to pass it on to a U.S. Closer, then we can do that. So their turnover commission. So you turn over a hot lead, or if you want all of the closing to be done in the Philippines, that's a different conversation too. But to be fair and to be transparent, we haven't built that business yet, but it's definitely on the pipeline. So right now we have the creative agency, which is, unlimited designs for $9.95 a month, and then the WordPress agency, which is $2.95 for 10 hours a month WordPress support. We have the real estate assistant, which is real estate virtual assistants that realtors and real estate investors can hire, and they're only at $8.95 a month. So our prices are very competitive, and these are all in-office managed teams.
That's incredible. That sounds super exciting. And meanwhile, your gift business that transformed from a flower shop into a gift business, and your event business is still happening. Is that right?
Yeah, and I have a few online businesses as well that are mine. That I am not in business with Perry also, and they're all just running there in the background. And I talk to my team literally on Facebook. I talk to my managers every day, and I just get updates and stuff like that. But so far, that's what it is. And to give you an update on the flower shop too, in 2017, I was able to start selling it as a franchise. So we actually have 12 locations all over the country.
Oh my
And
God.
yes, and I was able to just sell my system, the script, and the branding service. So they are allowed to have their own brand. So if they want to call it Brandon's Blooms or something, they can do that. But the
Very
system is
creative.
ours. Yeah, the system is ours. The marketing is ours, and we help them. And there's a little business coaching. There's a one-on-one with me, and I give them advice. And I'm happy to report that all of these, literally all, from the first to the 12th franchise owner, ROI'd in less than 6 months. So
That's incredible. Well,
yeah.
congratulations. You did not tell me that. That was probably you just being humble. But that's incredible. Well, I really appreciate you telling us and sharing with us this journey, and just being frank, because I think it's hard sometimes to admit the things we're good at and we have been good at, and you've been really open about that, and I'm grateful for that. So wrapping it up, because I think you and I could probably talk another 3 hours like we did when we met and hung out, is give me 3 HPTs for entrepreneurs out there who are starting, scaling, whatever you choose, but advice that you would have HPTs for entrepreneurs and our listeners.
Yeah, so well, before that, I want to thank you, of course, for giving me a chance to tell my story, and for seeing whatever you saw and making and really when you felt that I had a message that I could share to help other people, or if you feel like my story was worth telling, I feel really grateful that you think that I'm worthy to be here. So yeah, I wrote down some HPTs, and the first thing that I would say would be cash is everything. So cold hard cash is really everything, and that's why you need to make as much cash as possible when you're starting out. Your own cash, okay, not investments if you don't trust yourself. And that's one of the reasons why I never took investments, because I just can't trust myself that I would, I'm stumbling through the dark. I can't face an investor and promise him that I'm gonna grow his business, because I was just doing things by myself, and I'm learning and I'm stumbling through the dark. So whatever stage you are in your business right now, the more cash you can collect upfront, that's better. So this involves a lot of things. This involves collecting upfront payment. Maybe if you want to selling services prepaid or selling gift certificates. If you want to incentivize people for paying in cash rather than in credit. So there's different ways that you can apply this principle, but that is really, and of course, if you're starting out, sales and being a good salesperson is the first step to having to at least get to a position that you can call yourself a business. And then number 2 would be, as you're growing, it is your job to do what I call ROI driven hiring. So every time I hire a new person, me as a business owner, it is my job to think about how I can make 3 times of the salary of that person. So for example, I have this overflow of work and I'm like, I need to hire another person. So if I'm hiring this person and I'm paying him, let's say $2,000 a month, I need to make a plan to make $6,000 because I took this person in. So I always try to make at least 3 times of what I'm paying them as salary, because it's also safety net for you as a business owner. So it is your job as a business owner to think about your ROI every time you hire a person, because I don't want you just trigger happy hiring a person just because you had a really busy week. You have to have a plan. These people, you got to respect them too. You can't give them a job now and thinking, ah, shit, sorry, I didn't work. So after 30 days, I really did my best. So I'm really sorry. I have to let you go. You also can't do that. So thinking this way, you might think that, oh my gosh, Karla, you're just all about the money. When you hire, it's just about the money for you. But it should be, like when you give someone a job, you're promising them of a future. So you should not forget that. You're promising them that their kids can go to school. You're promising them that if they do a good job, you're giving them security, you're going to treat them well, and they're going to be credited for the good work that they do. So that's the social contract that I understand that comes with hiring a person. You got to treat this person with respect. And that's why you have to have your cash ready. And you have to have a plan. And it's your job as a business owner to have that plan. So, and the third HPT I would say is you have to make sacrifices and put your ego aside when you have to. So I am what they have, an alpha personality. I was the president of my debate club. I was always a champion at stuff. I'm the eldest child. I have a very alpha personality, but I always catch myself and I always spend time to reflect, am I wrong? Or I'm always also the first willing to do sacrifices and putting my ego aside for the good of your business. So I read this quote the other day. I think it was Lewis House who shared it on Instagram. And he said, you have to decide what your ideal life is, and everything that's not that, you have to be prepared to leave it. And it's very, it talks about discipline. It also talks about all the unnecessary things that you have to be prepared to leave if it's not for the higher good or if it's not for the future that you want. And that applies to your life, but for me that also applies to business. So before, I had trouble, obviously I had trouble accepting when I'm wrong, or when my employee is right, or they're more right, or they're better than me. But now I have learned that, and I've learned to apologize to if I'm wrong to my employee. And I've learned to quickly accept that other people's ideas might be better. And just like really, it's not easy, obviously, especially for a person like me where I think I'm right all of the time. Ask my boyfriend. But you have to think about your business. The business is bigger than you. So I think about my business as my legacy. I think about it as my chance to build generational wealth. I have this big vision for what I'm really building. I want to be a role model for women in the developing countries. I want to inspire young women, and I want to, and I have all these big visions. And so whatever serves that vision, that's the thing that I will do. And if it means that I will have to be wrong and admit that I'm wrong, then that's fine. And it's not easy, but I learned to kind of accept that.
Well, those were awesome. And you are an inspiration for not just women entrepreneurs, but for all entrepreneurs, including Caucasian men and and everyone else. And I'm serious. I think it's great that you want to inspire women. Obviously, you've done it in I don't know if the word hostile environment, but you did it in the Philippines, which is culturally a very hard culture to do it in. So you should get a ton of credit for doing that. And you're still doing it to this day. And I think you've got a bunch of businesses left in you. And I'm looking forward to staying in touch and following your journey. Maybe if you're open, we'll we'll get together in another 6 or 8 months to see how your current business, your new venture is going, and maybe talk about some things that you learned in this new chapter of entrepreneurship. Where can Karla, if people wanted to be inspired and learn, one of the things that I know you did is you really leveraged Facebook really successfully from an organic standpoint to get your flower shop and now gift business going. Where can they find you, your business page on Facebook?
Yeah, I actually have a business page. It's Karla Singson. It's where I, give advice and connect to my community. It's largely Filipino though, because I meant it to really inspire fellow Filipinos. And I also speak in my native tongue there sometimes. But I write articles that of topics that I care about on Medium. So you can also find me on Medium. And yeah, I'd be happy to obviously get in touch with you and see you, after all this craziness is over. I actually would really want to go to Silicon Valley and I show you something. I just finished reading this book.
Bad Blood, Secrets and
Remember
Lies.
this?
Yes, I do.
It's a Theranos story, and it's a really great book. Oh gosh, I finished this in 3 days. He's such a great writer. It's written like a thriller. So there was a comment here which was like, this is the best Silicon Valley thriller, and I didn't know that is possible. So that I'm really curious about what it looks like in person.
Yes, it is. I will say, now I'm a tech nerd, but remember something. One thing that I'll say, Karla, is that the stereotype is that Silicon Valley is mainly tech. And the truth of the matter is that there's consumer brands. There's the Atwala drink company. If you've ever seen that, they sell refrigerated drinks. That actually started right here in Half Moon Bay. And GoPro, which I know you and many people have heard of, the little camera that goes. Nick actually started that right here in Half Moon Bay and still has an office. So
Wow.
a lot of businesses are here. And I think there's a great energy here that there's highly competitive, but also people want to help each other out. And, it probably comes from FOMA and, you could be talking to the next billionaire. So you and Mitch are welcome anytime. We have and I extended this to you before, a whole setup here in Half Moon Bay at the beach. So after this craziness, we'd love to have you here and show you around and introduce you to a few people and see the craziness.
That would be great. That would be like my adult version of a field trip. Because when I first went to the States, the first city that I visited was, funnily, Vegas. Because I went, that was the time I met Perry. I went to a mastermind called Founders Board, which is training CEOs on how to build what was the term? It was like high value businesses, like for valuation. And for me, I just wanted to learn how I can improve my franchise. That's really just it. And I wanted to meet him. I wanted to meet Roland Frazier, and John Assaraf was in the same room. And it was a tight room. There was only 12 of us, so it was great. And then after that, but my dream city to visit in the US was Washington, D.C., because I'm obsessed with White House drama. So I've watched all of the White House series on Netflix, and I'm just obsessed about it. And then I visited that, and so that's why my next dream is going to Silicon Valley.
Well, when it's all over, you guys come here and we'll show you around. I'm really looking forward to it. And again, thank you so much for sharing your story. We'll catch up. I encourage everybody to look Karla up on Facebook. It would KarlaSingson. And Karla is very witty, and you will actually learn some amazing copywriting secrets by following her feed. So
It's a secret.
I encourage you to do that. Thanks so much, Karla. We'll be in touch soon. Be safe.
Thank you so much, Brandon. I had fun, and I'll catch you soon.